In the bustling city of Lagoa lived a stunning, vivacious woman named Queen Kasimma, or Kasimma, or even Casey for short, and as she was so fondly called by friends, Queen Kasimma. She had that African queen beauty, the glowing ebony skin, large round dark eyes, and supple lips. Then that body to die for, those loaded bosoms, curvaceous hips, and a large round behind. She was truly the embodiment of her name, Kasimma. In her heyday, Kasimma was quite frankly the talk of the town, and she loved it. She was everywhere, and the desire she carried with her, the lust she saw in the eyes of the sons of Adam, was the source of an overflowing pride in Kasimma. In fact, her suitors could line up from Badagry to Lekki 3 times and still remain enough to call her every day for over a year. In fact, she was a celebrity of sorts, flying with the big boys, politicians, musicians, and just generally men with full stacks. Her life was basically following a simple routine of sleep, partying, and getting laid. She had the life a lot of girls wished for, and a lot of girls still wish for. She even had her own catchphrase, "Oh, please, stop embarrassing me." This phrase she got from saying it countlessly to many suitors, and even some girls. But even she was not immune to the inevitable hands of time. She was too busy partying to see the signs, so to her, it was like it was all gone from one day to the next. Her long line of suitors vanished. Her phone no longer blew up by the minute. Her proactive girl friends were all of a sudden too busy, and like salt that had lost its taste, or a flower that had lived its age, Queen Kasimma, as she was fondly called, was now a thing of the past. 33 years of age, but nothing to show for it. Not even the money. She had squandered it all, or the clothes and shoes which were out of style. Kasimma went from hot cake to cold EBA, and that was just putting it nicely. It didn't help that most of her fly girls had hugely gone and settled down, got married, had kids, and abandoned the street life, leaving Casey alone with no one to turn to. In fact, the posh apartment she still lived in, she was now paying for by servicing the landlord whenever he felt like it. This wasn't the life she envisioned for herself at this age. She thought to herself on one of those days when the man lay snoring next to her. But thoughts like these were always double-edged, reminding her that she quite frankly never even envisioned her future. This realization always came with very hot tears. The kind of tears that you would just sit there silently while your eyes bleed hot salt and water. The thought of ending it all had often crossed Kasimma's mind, but the strength and the courage to do that always failed her. "Why is my life collapsing around me?" she would always ask, banging her hands on her dining table whenever she came to eat and found crumbs. Such periods would have her calling out to those men who had been in her life. But now she had gone from having men waiting on her to hardly getting her calls picked. This time, she called this guy who had been chasing after her for years, Emeka. She heard he had cashed out on some deals. The guy didn't pick until the 5th time, and when he did, he had such a horrible attitude that the call didn't even last a minute. She had even tried her hand at doing some work, but it was so hard. She couldn't do anything, and the taunts, murmurs, and gossip did nothing to help. It was like everything she was in the past was now being thrown in her face. In the space of 3 months, she had lost over 9 different jobs. One of those days, after she had gotten fired from a hair salon, an employee let something slip that got to her soul. "Some people SEF," she hissed. "Even her main Patty, Shy Baby, is getting married this Saturday," she said to a colleague loudly. Kasimma couldn't believe her ears, but she didn't turn so that they wouldn't see her face. She just silently slipped out of the salon and went back home. Once home, she called She Baby. She didn't pick up the first or the second time, and then the third, the phone had rang for a while before she picked up. Meanwhile, Shy Baby was busy preparing for her bridal shower when her phone started ringing. Shy Baby was expecting a call from her hubby, and her makeup attendants were already playfully joking that her otagu was calling, until she looked at the screen and saw Casey. She'd long since removed the Queen from the name. She hissed and dropped the phone on the makeup counter set before her, but it kept ringing, and she couldn't turn off her phone because her hubby was going to call. "Who's that person calling you like this?" her chief makeup artist asked. "One useless girl like that," Shui Baby replied, rolling her eyes. "Don't mind her. She will not stop. Oh, it's better you answer," the young lady opined, and Shui Baby sighed resignedly, reluctantly obliging. She didn't talk until Kasimma did, and Kasimma was not quite sure how to start the conversation. She was already crying. "I heard you're getting married," she said. "And," Shui Baby replied sharply. "You didn't even tell me," Kasimma spoke gently. "As my mama nah," Shui Baby hissed. "Why should I tell you? I don't understand your attitude," Kasimma admitted. "Aren't we friends?" "Heh," Shui Baby scoffed. "Oh, please, stop embarrassing me. Is this why you called?" she asked irritatedly. "Shui Baby, I can't believe you could say that to me," Kasimma said, admitting to the pain of her words being turned against her. Shui Baby scoffed. "That's none of my business," she said. Kasimma nodded and sniffed. "After we agreed to just mess with those men, you went and married Ade. How could you do this to me? How could you leave me out here like this? Oh, don't even try to blame me for your useless life at all," Shui Baby replied with agitation. "If anyone ruined your life, it's you. Can you imagine this rubbish girl?" she asked the attendants around her. 33 years of age, but nothing to show for it. No life, no career, no degree, not even a man. You wasted your 20s partying up and down, and now you want to blame me for it? You don't know how to do anything, and I am the one you chose to blame? Thunder fire you and your papa for there. No, ever call this line again. This your thing fit day contagious. Then she hung up. Kasimma was already in those hot tears. She just let the phone fall from her hand to the sofa. Someone came banging on her door. "Go away," she yelled in tears. "You're telling me to go away? It's like you have decided to pack out of this house today," he replied, to remind her of the power he held over her. But Kasimma was already far gone. "I don't care if you own this area of Lekki, the state of Lagoa, or even the country of Nigeria. Get out." "Heh," the man scoffed. "We shall see." To that, Kasimma's only reply was tears. She was wailing, sure that today was the last day of her life. So she went out to her balcony, climbed over the shiny steel railing, closed her eyes, and jumped. A while later, Queen Kasimma, as she was so fondly called, opened her eyes. She knew that this was not possible, but she was still falling about 5 minutes later. Mind you, her apartment was on the top floor of a 2-story posh apartment building. But even at that, she knew that there was no reason why she should still be falling till now. Besides, her scenery had changed. It was all black, like she was falling through space. She gasped, noticing that a bright light below kept getting bigger. "I'm definitely falling to hell," she thought to herself fearfully. "But I thought it was death first, then judgment," she wondered, trying to remember what she'd been taught in catechism over 2 decades ago. Am I so bad that I jumped, and they sent me straight to hell? No death, no judgment. All these thoughts plagued her as she approached the bright light, and she closed her eyes at impact. But there was no impact per se. It was like falling into something like jelly, but more liquid. She was about to open her eyes when a strong force suddenly pulled her underneath. She felt like she was drowning, and then everything went dark. The next time Casey could feel, she was writhing and struggling. "Oh, please," a strangely familiar voice said to her. "Didn't you just try to take your own life? Get up from there and stop embarrassing me." the voice snapped at her. Kasimma opened her eyes and looked around. She was lying in the streets of a familiar neighborhood. She shook her head and got up. Unbelievably, the voice was coming from a younger girl staring down at her through rose-colored glasses. But she was not just any girl, that was Queen Kasimma in all of her glorious prime. "You?" Kasimma gasped. "How? How is this possible? Where am I? Which one is where am I?" Queen Kasimma sneered, using air quotes. "Look around you. Where does it look like?" Kasimma obliged and glanced around her. There was a small, rustic shack, painted in bright, eye-catching colors, with wooden benches and tables arranged under a canopy of corrugated iron sheets. The air was filled with the sizzling sounds of grilling suya and frying plantains, as the chef expertly tended to the food, his cheerful banter drawing smiles from customers. Locals from different walks of life were gathered here, from young students to older residents, sharing stories and laughter over cold drinks and delicious snacks. The aroma of freshly grilled meat and spicy pepper soup mingled with the earthy scent of the open-air setting, creating an inviting and homely atmosphere. Kasimma gasped. This was the old baba tea joint from her childhood. But how? She wondered. How were they here? And why? She turned to her companion, but the young lady was pointing at something. Kasimma followed her finger and found a much younger version of herself seated at the table with a very young Shui baby as well. One bowl of pepper soup sat on the table between them. As this junior week dawn end, "Not to enter street find better hustle-o," Shui baby said, digging her toothpick into the soup, and expertly capturing 2 pieces of meat and 1 towel. "Sometimes you talk like you don't know my father. What should I tell him?" Casey asked. "Who said he has to know?" She baby replied. "What are you saying?" Casey asked, interested. "You could keep collecting your school fees. I know where we can find someone sharp, around our age that wants to go to school. And it's all good. No one would have to know what we're doing while we work the streets and get everything we want from these men after us." "Ah, you sabio," Casey remarked, giving her a high five. "Plus the school fees go just day enter pocket." Kasimma felt like the ground should open up to swallow her, watching herself doing the things she was. But before she could process her remorse, Queen Kasimma snapped her fingers, and the scenery changed again. This time they were standing behind a school building, looking into what seemed like the headmaster's office. It was a modest yet organized space. The walls were adorned with framed certificates and photos of past graduating classes, a testament to the school's history. A large wooden desk dominated the room, cluttered with stacks of papers, a rotary phone, and a well-worn ledger. Behind the desk, the headmaster's chair was slightly worn but sturdy, indicative of years of dedicated service. Shelves along one wall are filled with textbooks, educational materials, and a few trophies from school competitions. A ceiling fan spun lazily overhead, offering a slight respite from the heat. The room smelled faintly of old books and chalk dust, with a hint of fresh ink from recently graded papers. A window with faded curtains let in the soft afternoon light, illuminating the room with a warm, gentle glow. A single potted plant in the corner added a touch of greenery, reflecting a sense of care amidst the academic hustle. In there was her father, the headmaster, and the girl that had been posing as her for the past 3 years. She remembered that scene vividly, and of course the trouble it got her into with her father. He was devastated upon paying her a surprise visit, and finding out that his daughter had never returned to school after her junior week exams. Just when it became too unbearable, Queen Kasimma snapped her fingers again. The street was lined with colorful, often dilapidated buildings, and makeshift stalls spilled onto the sidewalks, selling everything from fresh produce to second-hand clothes. Children in worn uniforms dashed between houses and vendors, their laughter mingling with the constant stream of passers-by. Motorcycles and rickety Danfo buses crowded the narrow road, their bright paint jobs standing out against the buildings. The air resonated with vendors shouting their wares, blaring horns, and the rhythmic clattering of okadas. From open doorways, Afrobeats and Fuji music mixed with the laughter and chatter of people, occasionally interrupted by the call to prayer from a nearby mosque. The mouth-watering aroma of fried akara and puff-puff, spicy suya, and the pungent smell of drying fish blended with the sharp scent of exhaust fumes. Underfoot, patches of muddy water collected in potholes, and stray dogs weaved through the crowd. Despite the chaos, there was a sense of community. Neighbors greeted each other warmly, and there was an underlying rhythm to the apparent disorder that only those who belong can truly understand. Then she gasped. This was her neighborhood of Ajagunla, but a piece of newspaper she picked had a date of around a decade ago. How is this possible? Kasimma asked, terrified. The smartest minds on this planet will not be able to understand this. Yet you want me to explain it to you that dropped out of school in JSS 3. Oh please, stop embarrassing me. Queen Kasimma hissed, rolling her eyes. Why are you being so difficult and rude? Kasimma let out, unable to take any more of her attitude. Take a wild guess, Queen Kasimma replied and sauntered off, her entire being irritated Kasimma, but she knew better than to watch her leave. So she ran after her. Where are we going? She asked. Apparently no one could see them, but she felt strange each time she passed through, or someone passed through her, and they too would look around, confused. Suddenly Queen Kasimma stopped, and Kasimma had to be careful to avoid running into her. Not that she was sure of that happening, but with Queen Kasimma's attitude, she didn't want to find out. Kasi mama, kasi babay, niyan kasi. She heard people in the street hailing her name and looked. There she was in a flimsy underboob crop top and a black leather skirt the size of a postcard, reveling in the praises being thrown at her. Kasimma remembered this past vividly in her own mind. She was on her way back home after an all-night party. This was the day that the girl whom they were watching approached her home and found her things scattered on the floor outside. She immediately stormed into the house. Queen Kasimma snapped her fingers, and suddenly they were inside as well. They appeared in the sitting room, and Kasimma glanced around. The walls were painted a faded cream, adorned with family photos and a large, colorful calendar. A well-worn sofa set faced a small TV, which was showing Mama Ajaska. Two kids, an older boy, and a younger girl, sat cross-legged on the floor, engrossed in the screen. The 60W yellow light bulb overhead casted a warm amber glow, illuminating the room. To the side, a wooden dining table with mismatched chairs was set neatly, awaiting the next meal. Through a slightly open door, they could see the cluttered kitchen, with pots and pans hanging from hooks and a faint aroma of spices lingering in the air. The passageway was dark but partially visible, and from there, the two of them could hear the loud exchanges. Obi chuku Kasimma. If you think that you can leave this house whenever you feel like it, and come back whenever it pleases you, you are a liar. Come on, will you get out of my house? Her father thundered. Kasimma tearfully tried to move forward to see their faces, but Queen Kasimma held her back. Don't get too close, she said simply and waved her hand in front of them. Now they could see into the room where the parents were with their daughter. A large, faded poster of the popular Samu Loco hung above the double bed, which was covered with a brightly patterned bedspread. A wooden wardrobe stood against one wall, its doors slightly ajar, revealing neatly folded clothes. A small bedside table held a worn Bible and a kerosene lamp for the frequent power outages. The single window was draped with colorful curtains that let in a soft, diffused light, casting gentle shadows around the room. The floor was bare, save for a small rug beside the bed. Her father sat on the other side of the bed, backing her as he spoke, while her mother sat on the side close to her daughter, looking heartbroken. "Papa, am I not an adult?" she challenged. "That is not my problem. Take your things and go back to wherever it is that you're just coming from. And that is final. Mama, you'll not say anything now. See what Papa is saying to me." But Mrs. Ogachukwu knew better than to challenge the authority of her husband, especially for a daughter who had been the source of so many headaches lately. "Mama, you don't want to say anything," she repeated. "And say what, Queen Kasimma?" the woman inquired earnestly. "This is not the first, the second, or even the third time I've pleaded to your father on your behalf. But in the end, you do what you want. Your father has made up his mind. So the both of you want to throw me out of my own house?" she asked. "AKA," she called out, and the boy from the parlor got up and rushed to her. "Take Kaima with you and go and bring in my things." Her father turned then. "AKA, if you try it, you'll follow her and leave this house. Will you run back to that parlor before I get up from this bed?" AKA sped back to the parlor, leaving her standing there. "Heh, she shook her head. "If I leave this house, she slammed her hand on the wall. "None of you will ever see me again." "Fine by me," Mr. Obi replied. Mrs. Obi finally spoke up. "She's your daughter, Mama reminds him, she pressed. Mr. Obi turned to face his wife. "If I hear that from you again, I have only 2 kids, Akachukwu, my firstborn, and Chukwukaima, the second, my other child, an Ogbanj spirit, took from me, and until that spirit returns her, she is dead to me. Anani, apologize to your father now. Stop this reckless lifestyle of yours." "I'm not stopping anything, Mama. If it's what Papa wants, then so be it." With that, she stormed out, leaving all those things still littered around the compound. She left the neighborhood. Kasimma still remembered what she did after that, but she wanted to see her parents' reactions. "Papa Aka, she has left, her mother cried. "Our daughter has left us." "I do not know about you," Mr. Obi replied, "but that young woman is not my daughter. I do not recognize that stranger, and I cannot let Akachukwu, my only son, and Chukwukaima grow up in the midst of such influence." "What if she comes back?" Mrs. Obi asked. "If she comes and asks for forgiveness and turns away from her rubbish lifestyle, my arms will be open to her." Kasimma didn't know she was crying until Queen Kasimma turned to her. "Wipe your face," she said. "We have to go." Kasimma realized herself and was still cleaning her tears when her companions snapped her fingers. The scenery changed. The place was a mix of modern and opulent design, with pulsating neon lights casting a vibrant glow over the entire space. The bar, a centerpiece, stretched along one side of the room, its sleek marble countertop lined with an array of colorful bottles and glasses. Behind the bar, skilled bartenders mixed drinks with flair, their movements quick and precise. The air was filled with the thumping beats of Afrobeats and hip-hop, played by a DJ stationed in a raised booth. Plush leather seating areas were scattered around, occupied by groups of friends laughing and dancing. The dance floor was a sea of moving bodies, energized by the music and the atmosphere. Overhead, chandeliers added a touch of elegance, their light reflecting off the mirrored walls, making the place feel even more expansive and lively. This was one of her favorites, Club Calux, but she couldn't recall this memory. "Look to the bar," Queen Casey said, and she did. There was a young man there, vaguely familiar. His dressing was simple, but he had an attractive face. "Fine boy, how far?" a younger she-baby said to him, slipping into the seat by him. His smile was shy. "I'm looking for Kasimma," he said. "You mean our Queen Casey?" she asked, and he nodded. "And who do I tell her is looking for her? One fine boy like that." He smiled shyly again. "Hugo. Tell her it's Hugo." Kasimma gasped. That was Hugo Chukwu, whom she'd grown up with. He'd been her friend since forever. "Okay," she-baby replied and left. A few minutes later, they saw herself in that time walking to the bar. "Hugo, what's up?" she asked, tapping his back. But she didn't sit with him. "I'm fine," he smiled shyly. "I heard what happened with your dad," he said. "And?" she asked restlessly. "So you're just going to leave?" he asked. "Is that why you're here? Who sent you?" "My mother." "No one sent me, my dear. You know I'm always looking out for you. I just think that you don't have to continue living like this. You can dash." "Oh, so you, with that hashtag 5K in your account, came to give me life advice?" she scoffed. "Oh, please, stop embarrassing me." Then she turned to the bartender. "Sweetheart," she cooed, "get him a martini. Add it to my tab." Then she left him there and returned to the VIP section of the club. Meanwhile, Hugo left without taking the drink. "One last thing," Queen Casey said, and snapped her fingers. But this time, Kasimma noticed that the scenery did not change. "What happened?" she asked. "Your power no day work again?" Queen Casey just gave her the evil eye and pointed at the VIP booth. Then she noticed the difference. She remembered this scene like it was yesterday. This was the day when the five of them had sworn to play with the men of Lagoa. "Funny enough," Queen Casey remarked, "out of the five of you here, you are the only one who kept your word. And just look where that got me," Kasimma said resignedly, watching the girls she called her friends. Now she understood the subtle glances being passed around that table. Queen Casey turned to her. "I would show you the rest, but I'm sure you already know what to expect in them. And now we must part," she said and snapped her fingers. Before Kasimma could speak, she was suddenly falling through the darkness again. But it didn't go like the first time. She suddenly felt something around her, pulling her out of there. She opened her eyes and she was on all fours. "Let me help you up," a very familiar voice said, and she looked up. This time she was looking at an exact replica of herself, who was holding out a hand to her. She hesitated, but took the hand and let her pull her up. "Are you actually being nice to me?" she asked, confused, and the lady chuckled slightly. "Of course, I understand your confusion. Let me explain. First, I am the ghost of your nature's presence. The one you were just with was the ghost of your nature's past. We represent what your life has been like up to this point. Everything was difficult with her because she has the attitude, character, and flair of your past dash. Was I that bad? Kasimma asked. You tell me, she sighed. Anyway, I have the pains, sad calm, and sorrow of your present, and I have some things to show you. Come with me. Kasimma nodded and followed. Then she snapped her fingers and the scenery changed once more. The place was glamorous and state-of-the-art. The interiors boasted a sleek, futuristic design with interactive LED panels that shifted colors and patterns in sync with the music, creating an immersive experience. The bar, still the heart of the place, now featured a digital display that showcased the menu and specials in vivid detail. Mixologists were crafting signature cocktails with precision, their skills enhanced by modern equipment. The DJ booth, upgraded with the latest technology, dominated one end, where renowned DJs were spinning a blend of Afrobeats, EDM, and international hits, keeping the energy high. The VIP sections with plush, velvet seating were now sectioned off with glass walls, providing exclusivity and a perfect view of the dance floor. The dance floor itself was packed with revelers, moving to the rhythm beneath a dazzling array of laser lights and high-tech sound systems that made every beat resonate. Chandeliers had been replaced with futuristic light installations, adding to the avant-garde ambience. The overall vibe was one of luxury, exclusivity, and cutting-edge style, filled with a trendy, upscale crowd. She could barely recognize the place, but she knew there was only one place it could have been. The one and only Club Kalux. What are we doing here? I haven't been here in a long time, Kasimma said sadly. Well, we're not here to see you, her companion replied. Who then? Kasimma inquired. Them, her companion replied, pointing toward the VIP section. Suddenly, they were in there too. Careful, Kasimma yelled. Let's not get too close. But her companion chuckled. Oh, it's fine. As long as you're not present in that scene, there's no problem. Now take a look at the ones you called friends, she said. Okay, Kasimma replied. But first, why am I being shown all these? Am I not dead? As far as I know, I should be in the darkest pits of hell. Well, you're not, my dear, and soon you'll understand why. You're being too indirect. Please, just tell me the truth. Watch, her companion replied, and she turned to do so with a sigh of resignation. Her fly girls were all here. Of the 5 of them in that inner circle of friends, she was the only one absent. Can you imagine that rubbish, godforsaken bitch? That smelly nonsense called me today while I was at the hair salon, she baby said. Kasimma couldn't believe her ears. Oh really? Priska, more fondly known as Prada Baby, replied, sipping her drink. And what did she want, by the way? To beg? Because we all know that she is a finished woman. She completed and started to laugh. The others joined her until Shy Baby waved for them to stop. Something worse. Can you imagine that idiot was trying to blame me for her uselessness at her age? A person way no gree wise up for in herself. And she wants to blame me. Me that brought her into the game. You'll be helping people and they'll be paying you back with insults. This world SEF. Enough! Kasimma suddenly yelled, and it seemed like the girls felt the force of it too, because they were suddenly taken aback, and bore dazed faces, glancing around them in confusion. Kasimma broke down in tears, and her companion offered her a shoulder to lean on. "Believe me, I understand, more than anyone else ever can, what you're going through at this moment," she assured Kasimma. "But some people are not worth crying for," she concluded. "But I'm not crying for them," Kasimma replied in full-blown tears. "I'm crying because, how can some people be so cruel? I'm crying because I would have given anything to that group of girls. Because after losing my family, they were the only ones that took me as one of theirs. But now I realize that it was all a lie. Please take me away from here. Anywhere but here," Kasimma insisted, and her guide nodded gently. "I will take you to a place where hope has not yet died," she said and snapped her fingers. The streets looked like a mix of old and new, bustling with life and energy. Freshly painted buildings now stood alongside older, weathered structures, while makeshift stalls selling everything from fresh produce to mobile phone accessories were now interspersed with modern shops. Children in bright uniforms dashed around, their laughter mingling with the constant flow of people. The street hummed with the sounds of vendors calling out their wares, blaring motorcycle and tricycle horns, and a blend of Afrobeats and hip-hop from nearby shops. The air was thick with the aromas of freshly fried akara, spicy suya, and drying fish, occasionally punctuated by exhaust fumes. Despite patches of water in potholes, some areas had new asphalt. Stray dogs still weaved through the crowd, but reliable streetlights now cast a bright glow as dusk approached. The sense of community and resilience remained strong, with neighbors greeting each other warmly amidst the vibrant scene. A bright, warm smile returned to Kasimma's face, and the glowing amber of the setting sun only served to give it more warmth. This was where she belonged. She inhaled deeply. The streets of Ajagunla, and she should have never left. "Are you done smiling around like a telenovela female lead? Because this is not why I brought you here," her companion said, cutting into her thoughts. "Ah," Kasimma replied, turning to face her. "And here I was thinking that you were the nice one," she said. "Oya, imagine if it were your friend from the past, nah." Her companion laughed. "Ha!" Kasimma admitted. "That one would have left me here smiling to myself like a fool, I'm sure." And the both of them laughed at that. "I've never felt so understood by someone," Kasimma admitted. "Remember, I am the ghost of your present self," she said. "No one can get you better than you. Now come with me," she said, and led the way to the one place Kasimma knew it could only be, her family home. The parlor now has freshly painted cream walls adorned with recent family photos and a modern wall calendar. A newer, albeit modest, flat-screen TV displayed a football game, with two kids, an older AKA, and a friend of his were watching, sitting on the arms of that steadfast sofa. It was well worn now, but it still looked comfortable at least. The boys were completely engrossed in the screen. Energy-efficient white bulbs cast a bright, warm glow over the room. The wooden dining table, now with matching chairs, stood neatly to one side, ready for the next meal. Through a slightly open door, the kitchen looked better now and more organized. There were new cabinets and pots and pans hanging from modern hooks, and a faint aroma of freshly cooked jollof rice lingering in the air. The passageway remained without a bulb and just partially visible. She could imagine her parents defending their decision to leave the place without light. Her companion took her further, Now they stood at the door to her parents' room. The walls were freshly painted in a light pastel shade, and a large, framed photo of the family without her hung above the double bed, which was now covered with a new, brightly patterned bedspread. The same sturdy wooden wardrobe stood against one wall, though it had been repainted to look fresher. The small bedside table still held the well-loved Bible, now accompanied by a smartphone charger and a digital alarm clock. The single window, draped with new but simple curtains, let in soft, diffused light, casting gentle shadows around the room. A more efficient ceiling fan spun lazily overhead, providing a cool breeze. The floor was still bare except for a small, cozy rug beside the bed, adding a touch of warmth. Her parents looked like older but still beautiful versions of themselves, and currently her mother was crying. "Annie, it's okay," Mr. Obi assured. "I realize I may have made the wrong decision by abandoning her when what she needed was my strict guidance. But I promise you, if Queen Kasimma Obi just walks through that door, I will accept her, no questions asked." Her mother was still crying, but at least now she let him console her. Kasimma felt a rush of hope surge through her veins. "What are we waiting for?" she pressed. "Take me home. I still have one more thing to show you." Her companion winked and snapped her fingers. Thanks for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, congratulations. I really appreciate you. If you enjoyed the story and would like a part 2, comment part 2 in the comment section and subscribe to the channel so you would be the first to be notified when I drop a new video. Do have a lovely day.